Have you ever seen people rucking through snow and ice and wondered whether that's smart training or just asking to get hurt? In this episode, we break down what actually changes when you ruck in cold weather and snow, what doesn't change as much as people think, and how to approach winter rucking safely and confidently, even if you've never walked on snow before. You'll learn how traction affects stability, how to dress so you don't sweat yourself into trouble, and why pack design matters more when footing gets unpredictable. My guest today is Dan Vinson, founder of Wild Gym, a mountain athlete, and former wildland firefighter. Dan shares practical experience-based insights on winter rucking, gear selection, and how to manage load, balance, and fatigue when conditions get real. You're listening to the Rucker's Edge podcast, a show all about rucking that is designed to help you improve your rucking routine, lose weight, and ultimately gain your strength and energy back. Each episode dives into the science, stories, and strategies behind rucking. You'll learn from top ruckers, coaches, health and fitness experts, and performance specialists who break down what it takes to train smarter, recover faster, and stay ready for the next challenge. So whether you're new to rucking or an experienced rucker that's already logged hundreds of miles, this is the show for you. I'm your host, Spencer. Thanks for listening in. As someone that lives in a hot and humid climate with very little exposure to snow and ice, I can't help but wonder how different it must be to rucking in a cold weather environment. I wanted to learn what it's like rucking on snow and ice, and I couldn't think of a better person to have on the show to have this discussion than Dan Vinson. I had loads of questions about what it takes to successfully ruck in the snow. So for you listeners that are used to rucking in snow, I apologize. This episode may not provide as much value as our other episodes, but I encourage you to stick around still because Dan goes into detail about the construction and design of the Wild Gym rucks. And he also teases an update to one of Wild Gym's products. All right, here's my conversation with Dan Vinson. Dan, thank you so much for joining me here on the Rucker's Edge podcast. It's an honor to have you here. I have a lot of questions for you. As I mentioned in an email previously, I live below sea level in a very hot climate, and you live well above sea level in a very cold climate. So I want to talk to you about rucking in the snow, and I feel like you have a lot of expertise to share with us today. So thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, Spencer.
I want to start with your background, rucking. How long have you personally been rucking? And I guess what originally drew you to rucking for fitness?
So I was a Division I college athlete. I played lacrosse in college, and training's always been a part of my life. I went to a prep school for high school. I was an All-American in high school, and just training was always very integral to my, I guess, athletic success. I'm not that big of a guy. I'm like barely 5'8". So I'm just not that big. So training was very important. I can't remember the first time I rucked intentionally, but what I would also add is, so I was a college athlete. I was also a wilderness ranger and wildland firefighter. So backpacking or walking with heavy packs that's been something I've been doing since I was in high school. You know, we'd go backpacking in the Sierras. I grew up in the Bay Area, California. So I've been carrying weight for most of my adult life. I didn't know there was something called rucking until maybe, 4 or 5 years ago. I would just call it, going for a heavy hike or going out with my heavy pack, or when I was firefighting, we would do PT hikes is what we called it. So
okay,
rucking, it's been a part of my life, like I said, most of my adult life, but it's something I've leaned into more in probably the last, like I said, maybe 4 to 6 years, particularly for bow hunting. I'm out here in Colorado now. Archery elk hunting is like my new favorite thing in the world. And that's something that involves carrying a heavy pack for long distances, up and down steep terrain. So it's something that's just kind of become a part of my life.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And so are you going on like intentional fitness rucks, or are you just going out in the backcountry with a heavy pack and kind of killing two birds with one stone, getting a workout in at the same time?
Yeah. So it started early on. My wife likes this story. On one of our first dates, we went for a hike, and I put like a 15-pound dumbbell in my backpack. And that was like a very early ruck.
Yeah.
But to answer your question specifically, yeah, I ruck at least once or twice a week. A buddy and I meet up early in the morning and go out on the trails here, rain or snow, hot or cold. And I do intentionally ruck specifically all the time, as well as weight train, run. I do a lot of rock climbing as well. So I'm very much in the kind of Colorado, I don't know what you can call like mountain athlete scene, I guess, but rucking is very much an integral part of that, in addition to just going out on backpacking trips, things like that.
Sure. Yeah. I've been seeing a lot of people posting videos of going on rucks in snow and ice conditions, and I have some significant FOMO because it just looks awesome. And it's 80, 81 degrees here right now, so nowhere near snow. And we don't get a
Sure.
lot of snow down here in Louisiana. Last year was kind of a one-off. We got like 6 to 8 inches over a span of 1.5, 2 days, something like that. So I have no experience. I have very little experience walking on snow, I'll put it that way. I've been
Sure.
skiing about a dozen times and I'm a bona fide Jerry at that. So like maneuvering in ice or snow is not my forte, but I'm curious, like, do you remember your first like heavy hike in the snow or ruck in the snow?
I think back to it was probably some backpacking trips early on where we were out. I was a firefighter in Montana and we went out early season. June there you can still get significant snow. Like I've skied the mountain or snowboarded the mountain. It snowed like 11 inches late June. So I've definitely been backpacking out there early season in the snow. But as far as like rucking here, again, like I probably rucker run more on the trails just outside of Boulder. There's awesome trails. I'm out there probably more in the winter than the summer. In the summer, I go up to the high country, but the snow does not shut things down here at all.
Hmm.
Particularly in Colorado, we're high altitude, but it's a very dry climate. So the snow just isn't maybe as much as a factor as a wetter climate, maybe like Minnesota or something like that. But
Okay.
I don't think, I think if the cold is your reason for not going rucking or snow, I don't think that's really a reason not to, particularly with the biggest tip I would give, it's traction. They're called micro spikes, or what I use.
Okay.
There's a few other brands, but it's essentially like mini crampons that go over. I just go in my trail running shoes. So I use like which one's Ultra Lone Peaks, I believe is the model, but they just go right over your shoes. I wear not even that warm a sock, just kind of a standard wool, like darn tough sock,
Hmm.
and you're good to go. Particularly, we're going up and down hills. You don't need that much gear wise. Maybe I
Gotcha.
wear joggers and like a wool base layer, maybe a beanie, but
Yeah.
it should not be an obstacle.
I wanted to ask you about that. So it's like, yeah, you're walking on ice or snow. It's kind of unstable footing. How does that change, like, mechanically speaking? What changes first when you put weight on your pack and you start walking on snow and ice?
I mean, I don't really think it's that different. The only thing
Hmm.
might be your stride may shorten a little bit. And the fact that you're wearing thicker clothes, maybe you have just more weight on you in general, might slow you down a little bit.
Hmm.
But I don't think there's anything that really impacts like your mechanics unless you're in like deep snow. So this isn't rucking for fitness. This is just me out in the mountains. September, it snowed almost a foot when I was out archery hunting. So I'm essentially rucking in, shin high snow. So that definitely changes things, particularly like each step is a lot higher. So you're just having to use your hip flexors a lot more. But again, it's when I'm out here just on the trails, there's not a huge change in mechanics.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. But in terms of
Yeah.
like load, pace, and distance, what changes first, would you say, when you're going out for like a fitness ruck and you're going out in snow? Because I would imagine you may not want to carry the same amount of weight on your back unless you're super confident in your footing, maybe. Would you adjust
Yeah.
your
Again,
weight?
like I don't, to me, this is just my personal experience here. Cause again,
Yeah,
Colorado, it gets cold, it snows, but it's such a dry climate. It's not the same as, maybe if you're up in, so I'm just outside of Boulder. So we're at just under 6,000 feet. The trails here go up to just under 9. But if you're up in the high country, you're starting at like 10,000 feet going up to 12. So that's just a whole different scenario. But where I'm
sure.
at, nothing really changes. I'm wearing, maybe joggers and a wool long sleeve top and micro spikes on my shoes. Maybe not even.
Yeah,
And then the weight doesn't change. I might slow down a little bit just due to the nature of, maybe there's like the friction between my shoe and the snow is not quite as good, or I can't go uphill quite as fast. But again, I
gotcha.
wouldn't say it's that different.
Yeah, interesting. Is it someone had described rucking in the snow comparable to rucking in sand, I guess. Would you find that comparable or not at all?
I mean, again, our snows are so
Yeah,
dry. If it's fresh, dry snow, I barely notice it. Again, I think it
sure.
just depends. Like
Yeah.
Our trails get pounded. There's so many people out here just running all the time, essentially, or hiking or whatever,
Hmm.
that even after like a pretty significant snowfall, the trails get packed down quite quickly. So that's one of the benefits of being in this particular area. I will say, like, and this is where I think the traction plays a huge is a big factor. Is so it'll snow, it'll freeze thaw, so you get that real undulating, uneven surface. That's probably the biggest factor here, actually, where
Okay.
it goes from smooth to kind of like, imagine if the surface of like a choppy lake froze. So it's just this very uneven
Gotcha.
terrain. That's probably the sketchiest for me, where if I'm not wearing traction like spikes, I've definitely fallen a few times. I think that's just the one thing with rucking and just real areas that have real winter, like ice and snow, is the top heaviness can definitely break you quickly if you're not careful. In the sense of you have all this load on top, you slip getting out of your car or whatever, you've got this weight on. It's just you put your arm out to catch yourself. That I think is the biggest thing I would, I guess, caution people for.
I can see that. And you called them micro spikes? Is that what you said?
So there's a brand, I'm pretty sure they're called Micro Spikes,
Gotcha.
and there's a few others, but the only difference is some of them have like longer spikes, some of them have shorter. I
Gotcha.
find I use the shorter ones generally, but
Cool.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that. I know like snowshoes. I don't know. I'm trying to think like I ran track in high school, so I'm thinking like I had spikes and maybe they're similar to that size, but you just strap them onto the bottom of whatever boot or shoe you're wearing and then you
Yeah,
put
yeah,
them
they're
on.
chains for your shoes,
Gotcha.
like car
Yeah.
chains.
Cool. Now
Yeah,
let's talk about like thermoregulation and sweat. So I guess it's kind of like anything with exercise. Like I would imagine in Colorado, you're going on these like excursions or these rucks and you're just wearing layers and you just kind of shed them as you go. Is there like a go-to like jacket slash thermal system that you follow? Like what works best for you?
I've found that you need a lot less than you think. And my general rule of thumb is if you're starting out cold, you're probably doing it right. If you're warm when you start, you're probably going to sweat through very shortly. So for me, it's just and this is like probably down to maybe like single digits. So maybe 5 degrees, 10 degrees ish up to maybe low 30s, high 30s. So I just wear joggers, like Viore joggers, nothing fancy. I wear
Mhm.
wool, darn tough socks, just kind of their standard hiking socks. On the top, I'll wear a wool base layer. I'll wear a buff or like a neck gaiter,
Mhm.
maybe a beanie, but oftentimes just like a hat, like a baseball hat and
Gotcha.
gloves. And that's it. And the thing to remember too is your pack, your ruck, that's a lot of insulation that I always
Mhm.
forget about. So that actually keeps you quite warm.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I can imagine. I mean, yeah, rucking down here in Louisiana in like 90-degree weather, you take the pack off, it's like just stuck to you with all the sweat that you have. It's like
Oh, for sure.
I would imagine it kind of works to your benefit. It's when it's cold, kind of goes the opposite way. What about like decision making under environmental stress? Like how does the cold and fatigue start to affect decision making when you're starting to, I don't know, get fatigued and while you're rucking or on a backcountry excursion?
Right. I think my experience is less, my experience is less like I would say fitness rucks and more probably hunting's the best example, but I just get lazy. It's like,
Hmm.
you've been out for multiple days, you're looking at the next ridge, like, oh man, I don't want to go up and over that.
Yeah.
And I'll notice too, my reaction time will slow down a little bit. So I'll just be a little clumsier, particularly going downhill. I think downhill is actually harder than going uphill in the sense of it's that repeated eccentric load on your muscle where your muscle's lengthening under tension, essentially. I get way more sore from that than going uphill.
For me, what I'm thinking is like so like, if I rock at like 100-degree weather and like 100 percent humidity outside, it's like
Right.
immediately tough. So it's just like, oh wow, this is just hard already, and then it just goes down fast. I mean, I
Right.
was thinking maybe just rucking in the cold, you start out like super comfortable, and then it's just like a gradual burn as opposed to just like, boom, it's already like really difficult, I guess. You kind
I
of get to a
mean,
point.
I think the thing with the cold is it actually motivates you to keep going, right? Because you kind of find this equilibrium where your body gets warmed up, you kind of figure out your layering system, and so you're not really sweating a ton. You find this perfect example, but as soon as you stop, you get cold.
Hmm.
So there's almost an extra motivation in the cold to keep moving versus when it's hot. It's like you can't escape the heat, you know.
More with Dan in just a moment, including the thinking behind how he designed the Wild Gem Rucks. But I want to take a quick break to say thanks for listening to the podcast. Please text this episode with a fellow rucker that might find it interesting or a friend that could benefit from rucking. Sharing this episode would help the show grow and help more people improve their health and lives. Okay, back to it. So let's talk about rucksack design. You're the founder of Wild Gem. You have, I'm guessing, extensive amounts of research put into your packs. I want to kind of start out at base layer here. How does shifting weight affect balance and energy use during like unstable conditions?
I'm gonna answer slightly a roundabout way, but my intention with the design was to make something really comfortable. And what my issue was is before we launched our Wild Gym Rucks, I'd go out to train for like archery season. I had literally a 50-pound like ballast sack for like wakeboard boats. I'd put that in my just backpacking, my Osprey backpacking pack. And the problem was those packs are designed to be filled up with volume. So you throw this dense weight, it essentially collapses the whole pack on itself.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with you throw a cast iron plate. Like most backpacks are meant to have the volume filled up. Like that's how they function best. When you put dense weight in these things, they just essentially, like I said, collapse on themselves. And what I saw was hunting packs, I thought did the best job of doing that, or at least avoiding that, right? Because most hunting packs, they have this rigid frame. If you are packing out meat, you're essentially attaching that quarter in the same way you do like a cast iron plate now in the ruck. It's high and tight on your back. Instead of the weight being far away, like if you put it on the outside of your pack, it would pull you backwards. Just the leverage of it, right? So the closer it stays to your body, the less energy it takes. I have seen research as well where if you compare like a weighted vest to a ruck actually has a higher energy burn due to the weight basically pulling you back slightly. So you're kind of having to engage a little bit more, particularly your abdominals essentially, or kind of have to pull your torso more upright.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the design was meant to allow you to one, keep the weight as close to your body as possible so that it would be comfortable. And then two, disperse the weight over as much surface area as possible. So what I noticed is when I was using, like I had a trail running vest, I literally put a 30-pound cast iron plate into, and it just crushed my traps. Like it was so uncomfortable after.
Yeah, I'm surprised it actually held the 30 pounds.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You'd be surprised. Like the stitching is quite strong, but so I was doing that, and I just essentially our first design, so our everyday ruck, that design is a hybrid between a hunting pack and a trail running vest. So it has the trail running vest is surface area, so it's spreading the weight over there's as much surface area as possible, and it essentially kind of hugs your torso from the front and the back. And then the rigid frame keeps it tight and it keeps the pack from collapsing on itself. So there's a contoured frame. It's not straight vertical. It has like, as it goes up as it goes up your back into your thoracic, it kind of curves over. So it keeps the weight close. And again, that's to prevent that leverage where essentially the farther you get away from your back, each millimeter is just going to add more leverage.
Mm-hmm.
And then the new feather ruck, that is even a step further where we still have that kind of vest inspired design, but we have the built-in hip belt now. So you've got even more weight distribution, and it has a little more flex to it. So it just contours to you so well, and it's just very comfortable.
Does the everyday ruck not have a hip belt?
Good question. It has a removable hip belt.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
But the feather ruck is like fixed.
Yeah, it's built in. And the main other difference is the feather you can adjust the torso length. So That's very important, right?
Hmm.
Because
Hmm.
if
Yeah.
you were different heights, you need to be able to adjust the torso length to actually get the weight off your shoulders and onto your hips. So feather ruck has adjustable torso. Everyday ruck has, there's two sizes, but those are not adjustable.
That was actually one of the first things that I had realized when I bought like a tactical bag to start rucking, and I still use it. But as I was progressing, I started out just walking, but then as I started throwing weight in the backpack, I guess I got up to, 20 and then 30. And once I hit 45, I was like, you know what? I think it's time to start throwing on a belt. So the manufacturer had one that you can add to it. I'm like, this is not doing anything. I had it
Right.
like way above where it should be on top of your hips. And I was like, well, how can I adjust this? And the only way to do it is to loosen up the strap so it's actually not high and tight anymore. It's like low and loose. And now it's like where it needs to be. So I was like, so I'm in this in between. Like, do I high and tight or just like low and like potentially hurt my back just so I can get on my hips? So I
Right.
threw that, I threw them away. I'm like, these are useless. So the fact that you can adjust like how, yeah, and also my torso is a lot longer than like some of my friends and like we're the same height. I'm just like, oh, why is yours fits like this is not working for me. So yeah, the fact that you can adjust yours, I think that sounds crazy comfortable. Or just like
Yeah.
to provide that option to tighten it here, loosen it here, or vice versa. That's pretty good
Yeah.
design.
That's well, because like for me, it's okay. I want to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Like I'm going to ruck
Yeah.
harder. I'm going to ruck farther. I'm going to ruck faster if my traps aren't cramping, and so that was the impetus really with our designs. And I will say though, you know, you can there I think there's like a certain threshold you cross where if you want to ruck with 100 pounds, it's always gonna be uncomfortable. That you kind of
Yeah.
cross this threshold where it's just you can't really make that comfortable, but you can at least make it less painful.
Well, I'll say this. I've met one person that's wrecked with 100 pounds kind of routinely. Mike Smith. Actually, he was on the podcast a couple episodes ago. But anyway, he made his own. He took like an
Oh,
Everly
sure.
stock frame and like had it coming up kind of over the back of his head. It was like
Yep.
so high, but it looked like it worked for him. He said it was pretty comfortable too. But like I feel like yeah, if you go that high, you may have to consider like a custom build or something like that.
Right. The design I've actually been working on that I, I just don't know how many people, the problem is what's the viable market, right? Like how
Hmm.
many people actually want to ruck with 100 pounds? I don't know if it's worth it'd be, I would like it. Like I would like
Yeah.
something that's better, but yeah, the Hundo Ruck, we'll see. We'll see.
I like
If
that
you
name.
comment, send us a note. If you're
Yeah.
listening to this, let us know what you think.
I like that name. But I'm so like, what would the design be? Just
It'd be similar to the Feather, but it'd have a much more rigid frame
gotcha.
and our pockets. So we make our plates they're about the size of a textbook, so they're like 9 by 12 roughly.
Okay.
They're maybe like 8 3/4 by 11 1/2, something like that.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. So like, I'm curious when you were designing the everyday and then the feather ruck, are these your designs or did you hire like a team to come in and look at like what ergonomically, like what's the most optimal positioning or, shapes to contour the body?
I designed them all myself, and it
Cool.
was just trial and error. It was again like I think I had this unique experience where I've been my job, right, for several years was essentially walking around with a heavy pack most days. I just have so much experience with this type of thing, and I think what I think kind of the maybe X factor was the hunting pack with the trail running pack and seeing. It was one of those things where I don't know really where it came from. I just had a thought like, huh, what if we kind of combine those two concepts, which are very, I guess you could almost think of them as polar opposites, but they each had they each had their own features that I thought would kind of the sum of the parts would be greater, or excuse me, the sum is greater than the individual parts. So
Sure.
that was the hypothesis. And then it was working with our manufacturer and just getting I'll never forget getting the first prototype, putting on. It's like, oh yeah, this isn't it, but it's going to work. You know what I
Getting
mean?
there.
Like you
Yeah.
get that wedge in there just a little bit, it's going to work. And it was just iterating on that first design, And now we've done with the everyday, we've done, I think, at least 3 or 4 design updates since we launched the original. And then the feather, I have a new prototype here that I'm working on that I'm really excited about. So
Cool.
no, I don't have an exact launch date for that, but yeah, I think with the beauty with cut and sew is it's relatively easy to prototype. You don't need tooling like molds. So it's relatively easy to prototype, and we have an awesome manufacturing partner that helps a ton with that. So
Cool.
yeah, it's a fun process.
How awesome. With the feather ruck and the everyday ruck, can you purchase like any old cast iron ruck plate and will they fit in those rucksacks, or do you have to buy a Wild Gem ruck plate?
So most, so like Go Rucks plates will fit in ours. They're standard plates. They're roughly the same size.
Gotcha.
And the everyday that will hold some other plates as well, like the Yes for All.
Okay. Yeah.
But there's
Yeah.
a caveat, and let me be very clear, is so the everyday has 2 plate pockets. The outer plate pocket has a little bit of elasticity, so
Okay.
it will hold a bigger plate. And it actually, what's cool about the everyday is it's got actually let me just show you.
Yeah.
Got so there's two so this is like a sandbag,
Cool. Yeah.
but this is there's straps that hold it in, so you can strap across and hold anything, right? Does
Mhm.
that make sense?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't have it
Absolutely.
tightened, but and it's got this shelf here.
Cool.
So I should have made this look sexier, but like I thought like people like will put like kitty litter, like
Yeah.
dog food or their groceries and use that. So that's
Yeah.
kind of fun.
That is cool. Yeah. So I was like, what was it? It was like Thanksgiving talking about just like stuffing things into the backpack to ruck with, not
Oh,
necessarily
sure,
like
sure.
but people like stuff in like cans and stuff to bring to like their local food pantry. It's like, man, that's a great idea. Like I should have done that this year. That's gonna be
Oh, that's a good idea. I like that.
yeah, I'll do that next year. But it's cool that you have the straps on the inside because there's a lot of like tactical bags that have those straps, but they're on the outside, and so it's like kind of hard to get like a good snug fit when you have something that's oblong or like not necessarily like a square or rectangular or
Yeah.
cube shape. But no, that's really cool.
Hex size, like the hex style dumbbells, you know what I'm talking about?
Yep,
Those will fit actually really well. So you can put them vertically and then strap them in. And
perfect.
because they're
Yeah,
sitting on that shelf, it disperses the weight pretty well. So yeah, it's really versatile on you can kind of load anything.
yeah, that sounds like it. I mean, if you can load kitty litter in there, it's
Yeah.
kind of like a
I
lot of
actually
options
carried
there.
my wife. I rucked my wife. I had my wife sit in there.
No
I was able to
way.
carry her. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
So what's next? You said that you have potentially another prototype coming out for the Feather Rock. What else is on the horizon for Wild Gem?
Yeah, I think there's my favorite. It's funny. I'm always using the prototypes because I don't know if this is just me, but I feel like a lot of founders have this where you're never satisfied. You always want to make things better. You see the flaws, right? Like
Sure.
I see every
Yeah.
little crack. Like, oh man, this could be better.
Mhm.
So my prototypes are always my favorite rucks because they're always like that one step in the right direction,
Yeah.
at least for my opinion. So my favorite ruck right now is it's essentially would be the Feather Ruck 2.0. That seems to be just from like a business standpoint where we'll focus more. People love the everyday. I use it a lot, actually. I actually use it as my travel backpack. So when I go or try,
Cool.
I should say, I don't know why I keep saying backpack. This is the Rucker's Edge, man. My travel ruck is the everyday ruck,
Sure.
and I love it for travel. It fits under the airplane seat is for carry on, so it's no problem there. And it just my my it's heavy, so it carries
Yeah.
weight great.
Yeah. I mean, who was that? Kayla Cittadino had sent a message in to the podcast a while back, and she said it's the most comfortable back
Cool.
that she had worn. Yeah. But
Colorado. Colorado
yeah,
shout out.
Dan, I don't know if you want to add anything or if you had something specific you wanted to say to the audience or anything like that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm happy to engage with folks that want to reach out. I'm Dan. My social handles pretty much all around are it's at Wild Gym CO.
Okay.
Then you can reach out to me personally. It's Wild Dan Vinson. That's on pretty much all the socials as well. I'm on X. I think my X is just Dan Vinson or Dan R Vinson. And then on the side, I do some consulting for anyone that's doing like e-commerce, things like that. So if there's anyone that's looking to start a brand or anything like that, I'm happy to help.
Cool.
And yeah, stoked to engage.
Awesome. Well, Dan, thanks again. Really appreciate you joining me here on the Rucker's Edge podcast, and good luck to you with the rest of your endeavors with Wild Gym, man. Thanks again.
Yeah, thanks, Spencer. Appreciate you.
All right, that wraps up my conversation with Dan Vinson. You can connect with him on social media at Wild Dan Vinson and Wild Gym Co. I'll drop the links to both of those in the show notes. If you want to reach out to me, head on over to theruckersedge.com or on Instagram at theruckersedgepod. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to follow or subscribe to the show in your favorite podcast app so you're notified of new episodes. And you're not going to want to miss next week's episode. I sit down and have a chat with John A. Daly, a Marine and author of Tough Rugged Bastards. He shares his wisdom from a lifetime of rucking and thoroughly enjoyed that conversation. I think you will too. Okay, that's it for today. Thanks again for listening to this episode of The Rucker's Edge.